What is going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTubes, wherever you guys are joining us on a Thursday afternoon. We always appreciate it. Got James Grande with me on today's show. I am Dan Servodidio. What's up, man? How you doing, James?
I'm just doing today, Servo. I'm
Oh, you're not fired up
nothing.
for Chargers Raiders tonight, I could tell.
It's not that I'm not great time to be a sports fan with everything going on. Football, the playoffs right around the season. The Giants back in the mix. Servo. You know how it is. The
Hey,
teams in
Tommy
the mix.
Cutlets.
Yeah, Tommy Cullets. And basketball in full swing and winter meetings and deferred money and a lot of goodness. But just doing today. That's all I got for you. I don't have much elaboration. Just we're getting through the day, Servo. We've all had those days. I hope you're having a fine Thursday. The best part about today is that tomorrow is Friday, and then the following day is Saturday. That is the best part about my Thursday today.
Well, hopefully I could, cheer you up a little bit by breaking down the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl and the New Mexico Bowl and the LA Bowl presented by Gronk. We got some fun bowl games to talk about. I'll be giving out some picks for this the Saturday bowl schedule. We got bowl games starting up on Saturday and lasting all the way, obviously through the national championship, but for New Year's Day, all those big bowl games, but. We start with the small bowls this weekend. And I got some picks because why not? And if you guys are doing your own, bowl bets or bowl, confidence pick 'em contests and all that, I think these picks and these breakdowns will help a little bit. But I know you got some NBA bets for tonight, but we got Thursday night football here. Weeks 15 starting up
15.
this week, and we got games on Saturday and Sunday this weekend, but we start here with Thursday night football. And by the way, if you have any of your own bets and picks, props, anything for tonight's games, in the NFL, but anything else, college football too this weekend, throw them in the chat here while you're watching along, and we'll definitely get to your own bets and. Maybe we agree, disagree on some. You guys throw out winners when we aren't even thinking of some. So definitely throw us some of your own picks and predictions in the chat here on YouTube. This game, though, Vegas is favored. Las Vegas favored at home by 34.5 is the over-under here. I don't think either of us have a pick on the game spread or total, but I will say, for the Chargers side, it's Easton Stick starting here. Herbert now out for the season, obviously. We got Keenan Allen ruled out for the Chargers as well. So those are just obviously some things to note on that side. On the Raiders side of things, still Aiden O'Connell starting for them. Josh Jacobs was questionable. I guess we'll see if he's definitely going to be active, but his status is just a little bit up in the air. So definitely check, once the actives come out after our show here to see if he is for sure playing, if you're thinking about, props or anything on the Raiders side of things. But this game, though, I will say I was looking at the under, obviously because it's Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick here.
Yep.
Thursday night football unders, primetime unders have been cashing left and right this season. But I thought it was very interesting that this total has not moved at all. It's at 34.5. It did drop a little bit early in the week, but like today, I thought maybe some money would be coming on the under. We'd start seeing the total drop a little bit. But it is not budging, which has me worried off the under here. And maybe we get a surprising, back and forth game that could push it over late. But we'll see. Any overall thoughts on this matchup before we start giving out picks?
I mean, despite it's obviously pretty bad quarterback play. But if Jacobs does suit up, I mean, there's a lot of skilled position. At the skill positions, skilled players. I mean, Devontae Adams is cleared for this game. I know Keenan Allen's not, but maybe Mr. Drops a lot. Quentin Johnson will, show something why he was a first round pick, and the Raiders have good skill. Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, and so I understand it. And it's also these defenses kind of suck. Chargers allow a lot of passing yards and just allow a lot of yards in general. And So it is interesting. It is a little scary when one of the teams involved is coming off a 3-0 game the week prior, but uh, so I would have a lean on the under, but we saw how unders did for me last week. They didn't do well, so you know what? I'm staying away from it this week. I have shifted my focus from unders last week, Servo. All overs today, all over. The unders
Yeah.
did me poorly, but I like the overs. I took it.
Also, while you're watching the game, it's so hard to like root for an under too because
Correct.
you
Correct.
want to see, you want to see offense. You want to see, unless you're rooting for unders on the defensive side, I guess. But
Right.
yeah, when you're rooting for unders on like yardage or receptions, it's tough, especially when you get late in it. It's like, oh, this guy's getting 2 quick catches in garbage time, But yeah, the spread was also interesting to me because instant lean was all right. Raiders should win this game, but the fact that it is just at 3, they're basically, the sports books and Vegas are basically just giving the home team 3 points here because they're at home and on Thursday Night Football. So like they're saying it's basically a toss up, even with Easton Stick at quarterback and not Herbert. As you mentioned, the Raiders scored 0 points last week, so you have to keep that in mind when handicapping this game. Over on our YouTube chat here, already some interaction. We love seeing that. Tam Vela here. What are your thoughts on Myers, Jacoby Myers for the Raiders? Well, I think you have a pick on Myers here, don't you, James?
Yeah, I like him. Over 3.5 receptions. It opened at 4.5. It's crept down to 3.5, which is never like the most comfortable thing when your pick is moving south. But obviously now it's juiced -160 over on BetMGM. He's now hit this in 3 straight games with Aiden O'Connell under center. The Chargers have allowed the most passing yards in the NFL. And their slot corner, Isang Bassi, ranks 96th of 120 corners this year, according to PFF, Pro Football Focus. So, everything lines up for Jacoby Myers. He's hit this in 8 of 12 games this year. And with the status of Josh Jacobs just being what it is, and even if Josh Jacobs plays and is in any way hindered by it, it could be a pass happy approach for the Raiders, and that leads me to believe Myers is going to hit the over pretty easily here, over 3.5. So, right on cue, Tim. I like Jacoby Myers to hit the over pretty with relative ease in this game, much like he's done with Aiden O'Connell this year.
Yeah, I like that too. I was looking at him and Devontae Adams props in this game because, yeah, the Chargers pass defense, that they're allowing the most receiving yards per game in the NFL this season. So it should be, you kind of have to pinpoint, all right, which guys on the Raiders should be, doing the most damage there. It's Myers and Devontae Adams, and that's one of my props is Devontae Adams over his receiving yards tonight. Got it at 69.5, but you can look around. I think it's up at 70.5 at BetMGM now, but look around for the best numbers. But he's been over this yardage in 3 of his last 4 games. Went under it last week, so I think he bounces back to get back over 70 plus here tonight. But you mentioned, Aiden O'Connell, when he's been under center now in the last few games, he's looking Myers and Adams' way a lot. And Adams has double-digit targets in 3 of the last 4 games now with Aiden O'Connell under center. He also had 75 yards on 8 catches against the Chargers earlier this season. So his overall, game-to-game numbers this year, he hasn't gone over 70 yards a lot this year, but the recent stretch here, again, 3 of the last 4 he's gone over, and he has that track record against the Chargers. Last year against the Chargers, by the way, he had 177 and 141 receiving yards against this secondary. And the Chargers, I think it's going to be Myers and Adams both having a good day because the Chargers have allowed at least 70 receiving yards to a pass catcher in 10 of 13 games this year. So I feel like both could go over it this week, but I'm looking at Adams's yards here. You're looking at Myers' catches. I think we're both kind of seeing it that the Chargers secondary could have some issues with this Raiders passing attack.
Yeah, they're not stopping anymore. They're not. They're
Especially
not.
if Josh Jacobs is out or just limited in this. Again, he's coming in questionable. We'll see if he is playing, but that just in general could just force the Raiders to the air more, as you were saying.
I mean, Zamir White and Jimmy Garoppolo have 20 carries each. That's tied for second on the team this year. Like that's like that just goes to show you how much they've relied upon like other names other than Jimmy Garoppolo is tied for second. He's only played 6 games.
That's wild.
So if Josh Jacobs, we might even get that during the show. We've gotten a
Yeah.
couple news updates during the show. While we've been live. So maybe we do, maybe we don't, but the passing attack, but even if Jacobs does suit up, like there's a chance that he's somewhat limited because Ian Rappaport did report like this is a legit injury that is possibly keeping him out. And if possibly 13 carries in a 3-0 loss, not exactly like a game you'd think like, oh, let's go away from Josh Jacobson or, so I don't know. We'll see. I think there's going to be a heavy passing attack, whether or not Jacobs plays, truthfully, because the injury is obviously a serious one. And the reliability of everyone behind Josh Jacobs has obviously been a question.
Mm-hmm. You got another prop with the Raiders passing attack, don't you?
Yeah. Aiden O'Connell over, just right on par. Aiden O'Connell over 203.5 passing yards. He's done this in 2 of 3, 3 of his last 5, excuse me. And like, yeah, the Minnesota game wasn't great, obviously. 3 points total were scored. And he didn't do it against the Jets. And the Jets, we've said it kind of all year, like, Jets had a quarterback, which they did for 4 plays. This season obviously would look different for them. But the Chargers have allowed the most passing yards this year. The uncertainty with Josh Jacobs. And you know what? The Raiders have not been shy throwing the football with Aiden O'Connell, 32, 33, 41 attempts the last 3 games. I really like that. He doesn't exactly drive the ball downfield, but having Devontae Adams healthy sure will help that the field stretching. So I like O'Connell to go over the 203.5 passing yards prop on BetMGM.
Yeah, I like that too, just especially with this matchup against the Chargers secondary. Who is Garoppolo healthy right now?
Yeah, he's just
Okay.
healthy scratch.
Okay, because I was just looking through Schefter's tweets to see if he had anything about Josh Jacobs, and I saw one from last night where he said, or yesterday, where he said that despite Antonio Pierce not being committal on a starter for this game, Aiden O'Connell is expected to remain the starter for tonight's game. So I guess if you maybe bake that in a little bit, like if he does struggle, could they go to Jimmy G?
Yeah.
Maybe, but they besides last week, they were playing all right with O'Connell back there. Last week was bad, obviously going scoreless in the game, but we'll see. If he should have success, whoever's under center, they should have success in this matchup. So if O'Connell, as long as he doesn't throw like 2 picks early, he should be in there for the whole game. We'll see.
There's definitely a chance of that too.
You might have a prop for that. Well, you could cash that one too. Well, before you give that one out, let me go to the Chargers side of things here. With Keenan Allen out here, it's basically going to be a lot of Austin Eckler, and I think a lot of Gerald Everett seeing some more targets now. So give me Gerald Everett over 3.5 receptions, plus money on BetMGM. Last week when Easton Stick came into the game with Herbert going down, he was basically looking at 3 guys, targets wise. It was Eckler out of the backfield, it was Keenan Allen a lot, and it was Gerald Everett. Everett saw 4 targets when Easton Stick came in. He had 8 targets overall in the game last week. But I think you take out Allen out of that equation, and I think Everett is the guy for those shorter completions. It's basically him and Eckler, in my opinion. Palmer and Johnston on the outsides for Los Angeles, but I feel like Easton Stick is going to be trying to just find the easier completions underneath a lot more. especially during the game to just kind of establish a rhythm, get comfortable. So Gerald Everett is right in that spot. And I see this 3.5 line. I think it's lower because, it's Easton Stick at quarterback and not Herbert. But Everett has had 4, 4, and 5 catches in the past 3 games. And his targets have been going up in these recent stretch. Again, it is Stick under center and not Herbert now. But as I mentioned, when Stick came into the game last week, it was Everett, as like the third option behind Eckler and Allen. So yeah, you're taking out Allen. I just got to bump up Gerald Everett here to get more looks. So give me over on his receptions.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it at 3.5. But I appreciate you sticking to your guns here, Servo. And
Sticking.
what? Oh shoot, did I do that? Oh darn. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's a like you just said, like he was third, and it's not always like natural progression where if a guy's third in like targets, he's just gonna advance to number 2 when the guy in front of him is. But it's been a good spot for tight ends in general. The Raiders are one of 9 teams this year to allow 70 receptions to the tight end position. So, they're 9th allowed. I mean, that's a lot of receptions to a tight end position. And Everett has been the staple for not only Easton Stick here, but Justin Herbert in the past too. So I love that prop. I love it more that you're getting it at plus money. I feel like that's kind of
I know.
stealing. But yeah, I mean that's a good one, especially with how targeted tight ends have been against the Raiders.
Yeah. I'm still looking at BetMGM. It is plus 110 still. So yeah, maybe the the odds are not in the favor, but I'll gladly take the plus money chance on that.
Yeah.
For him to go over.
So I know we've both been kind of like touting the quarterbacks in this game, but I do think it could be pretty sloppy. I don't think 34.5 points is indicative of a lot of offense being scored. We've seen, the Aiden O'Connell turnovers rear its head, especially lately. I mean, he's played 7 games, has 7 interceptions this year, has a 3 interception game against the Dolphins, has at least 1 in 3 of his last 4 games. And Easton Stick, very unknown, fumbled the ball twice. Obviously, like neither of these quarterbacks are very prone to keeping the ball. I think combined they throw over 1.5 interceptions. Minus 125 over on BetMGM. Neither defense has really had that many interceptions. The Chargers have 7 total this year, and the Raiders have 10. But the Raiders defense has definitely been better. Unfortunately, they've ran into in 2 of the last 3 games, the Chiefs and the Dolphins, which is like not exactly fun. And the Dolphins game, I mean, O'Connell turned the ball over 3 times. Like the Dolphins just had shorter fields the entire afternoon. Like there's not much you can do when your quarterback's turning the ball over and you're trying to defend deep in the zone against, maybe the league's best offense. But the uncertainty of Stick and O'Connell, and hopefully, O'Connell can get away with throwing a pick and not get benched in this game, because I'm hedging my bets here, Servo, where I think O'Connell goes over, but I also think that there's a chance we're getting some turnovers out of him too. We're just being a gunslinger all over the place.
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be a sloppy game. That's why I told you up front, like I think the under is more likely to hit. I didn't bet it. I'm staying away from it. But I do think yards will be accrued and turnovers will happen as well. So I think both quarterbacks throw more than 1.5 interceptions. Get it? Minus 125 on BetMGM.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you combine the two, I do think this is a good chance of going over. Even though I think Easton Stick can try to throw some shorter completions and stuff, it's still, a very inexperienced quarterback under center here, and could be forced into a mistake or two. And like, unlike, maybe O'Connell on Easton Stick's side, if he does throw a pick or 2 early, I mean, they don't really have an option to bench him. They got to roll him out and let him go through those growing pains if he has them. So, Yeah, can't knock that pick there. On the Easton Stick side, though, I'm taking a chance here at his anytime touchdown odds plus 550 on BetMGM. So this was a pick. Just kind of doing some research and stuff about some other people out there in the betting space giving out picks, and this is what I saw. And once I dived into it, I saw some really good value on this because in college at North Dakota State. This guy ran. He ran for 41 touchdowns in his 4 years at North Dakota State. Ran for 17 in his final season as the starter there before getting drafted. Has not seen meaningful, NFL regular season time to really get any sample size of his rushing ability. But in the preseason, he's run for 5 touchdowns in his preseason games over the years, including 2 in a preseason game earlier this year when he got in there. So, I think, in college, if you go back and look, he's a under the radar guy, North Dakota State, people don't really know or watch him much, but his legs were a legit weapon. I mean, it's his strength. He's a better runner than he is a passer. He's a legit dual threat guy. And especially in the red zone and down near the goal line, North Dakota State were very happy to draw up like designed runs or for him to make plays with his legs. I feel like, for him to be comfortable in this when he's down close, instead of avoiding maybe throwing an interception in the end zone, I feel like maybe the Chargers might be fine to let him run one in. Especially, he might be a better goal line guy than Eckler. Like if Eckler gets stopped on a couple, I could see a QB sneak touchdown here. But either way, earlier this year, Raiders Chargers, Justin Herbert ran in 2 touchdowns in that game. So it's just kind of a weird track record, though, that kind of lines up with, I think there's value here. Taking a shot on Easton Stick to run one in. Plus 550 on BetMGM. It's pretty good odds.
Dude, you've really stuck to your guns here. And just bet. I'm sorry. It's just one of those.
It's still funny the second time.
We're doubling down. We can't. I was sitting with that one for the whole segment.
Oh man,
dude, 41. I mean, 41 rushing touchdowns is a lot of touch. That is a lot of rushing touchdowns. Like that's not an accident. You don't just accidentally fall. I mean, unless you're getting pushed into the end zone, as you know very much.
The little brotherly shove, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the brother. Yes, that is exactly what we were talking about. I like it. I mean, that's plus 550 Easton Stick tonight. I'll sprinkle something on there.
Listen,
I'll sprinkle a little.
Even in like a low total game here, low scoring game, I wouldn't be surprised if Easton Stick is one of the touchdown scorers. I mean, it's either that or because when you look at odds, like I'm looking at BetMGM right now, and it's you can do plus 110 for like Josh Jacobs, Zamir White, plus 150 for Eckler. But for the Chargers side of things, it's like Easton Stick. I'm looking at BetMGM plus 500. It's gone down a little bit for the Easton Stick anytime touchdown. So Mark Pitts here in the chat says, come here for the dad jokes. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate Grande coming here with the dad jokes. I don't have many to offer, but I lean on him for those.
Appreciate it.
And then Michael Murphy in the chat here. Wow, what do you know, boys? And
yeah,
get the business.
Support. Thanks for the support, Michael. Appreciate it.
What is he? I don't know what he's referring to. Wow, what do you know, boys?
He doesn't like the joke. He doesn't like the jokes. Yeah, we're talking a little smack. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, I see.
It's okay. Michael, I respect it. You want to get to the? Let's get to a little CFB and avocados from Mexico.
We got a whole Saturday slate of college football bowl games here.
Yeah. What do we got first, sir? We got holy cow, we got a lot. The Myrtle Beach Bowl is between Georgia Southern and Ohio. We'll open with that one. What do we got for maybe right down the road from me? We'll head to the Myrtle Beach Bowl. What do we got for that game?
Yeah, you can take a little jog over to this game on Saturday morning. This is 11 a.m. Eastern time kickoff to start out bowl season. This is the first bowl of the day here, and on Saturday Going Georgia Southern here. You see the records on there. So if you're a casual college football fan, you might just look at these records and say like, "Oh, Ohio 9-3, Georgia Southern 6-6." What's up?
Breaking news: Josh Jacobs will be out for this evening
Oh,
for
okay,
the for the Las Vegas Raiders.
okay, officially
Per
out.
Rappaport and Garofalo, he didn't practice this week. He is reporting that Zamir White is slated to be the starter this evening. So I hope everyone placed all our quarterback receiver props here for the Vegas side of things. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously big news because we've talked about the lack of trust that the Raiders have had and amongst anybody else other than Josh Jacobs, with Jimmy Garoppolo being, the second highest volumed player tied with Zamir White. Zamir White has not had a good year during his time on the field. 20 attempts, 54 yards. And we respect what you're saying, Michael, but we will be talking college football a little bit into the show. But like, it's obviously. What are your initial thoughts on what this does to? I see BetMGM. The line has actually moved to 35.5 from 34.5 when we started the show. I don't know if
Because
they're
on that note, I think as we were talking about it earlier, I think the Raiders go with a more pass focused offense here, which helps the over, obviously. And I like your Aiden O'Connell passing yards prop a little bit more now. I like both of our receiver props. We gave out Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers picks already on the show. So I'm glad I got those locked in. And you did too, because yeah, I think Jacobs being out, I mean, Zamir White is fine as like a, fill in, but like taking on, I don't think he's going to take on like 20 plus carries here, honestly. So I feel like it's going to be a lot more passing for the Raiders side.
You know what's interesting too, Servo? As we are just breaking this down, I got the O'Connell passing prop at 203.5. BetMGM now I saw it was live movement to 200.5. It's now 201.5. So going down. So if you had it at 203, we could now you could now get it at 201.5, which is not too bad. But it is interesting because 20 carries for Zamir White. What are like Josh Jacobs is averaging, mid-teens carries. What's your expectation for workload for Zamir White? I mean, it's not what Josh Jacobs has got.
No, I mean, looking at this year, like the most carries he's gotten in a game, and obviously Jacobs has been healthy, is 4. He's gotten 4 carries in his most games. I mean, this guy was really good in Georgia, and last year, the most carries he got in a game was 3. So he doesn't have a proven track record of taking on a big workload. Obviously, he's been behind Jacobs, but I know they have Amir Abdullah too. Like I feel like on passing downs, it's going to be some Amir Abdullah mixing in for the Raiders, which just kind of, if you're looking at Zamir White props, and I'm looking on BetMGM right now, it looks like they took down, maybe you can look around, but they actually have a Zamir White rushing yards prop is at 61.5. If you're looking at that, I know it might seem low. I wouldn't go over on that. I'd be worried about that because the Chargers pass defense is where you want to target them. And I feel like the Raiders are going to be, this week, they've probably kind of known that Jacobs won't be going. So I feel like they've been practicing like with that in mind and just, heading to the air more often because that's what the matchup indicates here against this Chargers secondary.
Yeah, I'm looking. So the White props are interesting because you mentioned the 61.5 yards. I don't know if I'd touch that. 15.5 rushing attempts. Pretty juiced to the over, minus 130 to over 15.5. So the receiving is what I want to. So 7.5 receiving yards right now, Servo. Okay, for Zamir White. The Los Angeles Chargers have allowed 85 receptions to opposing running backs. That's second most in the league.
Mm.
7.5 receiving yards. I mean, I don't know. Like Zamir White, like could go over that in one swoop. Like, what do we have? Over 1.5 receptions for Zamir White. Zamir White as well.
Yeah.
Minus 120 on BetMGM here. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of liking these like receiving props for Zamir White as opposed to banking on 61.5 yards and 15.5 attempts, like you just mentioned. Like the attempts feel fine. Kind of like how we were talking about Ezekiel Elliott last week. We didn't think like, I mean, he was great in the passing game. He was great overall, but like both of us thought volume, but not efficiency. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And you just pointed out the way to beat the Chargers, and we've been pointing it out all show, like beat it through the air. I wonder if the Zamir. I mean, I'm way more interested in Zamir White 1.5 receptions and 7.5 yards to the over than I would be like 61.5 rushing yards for Zamir White.
Yeah, I would lean towards the running back receiving props more so than the rushing. I like that call. Amir Abdullah 1.5 catches. The over is
Yep.
minus 175. It's a little rich, but I do think he would have more of a role as a pass catcher out of the backfield, maybe. And Zamir White is kind of the early down ball carrier, getting more carries. But I think on passing downs, we might see more Amir Abdullah here. So I'd be looking at him on his receptions, receiving yards. He's at 11.5. Is Amir Abdullah? I mean, not terrible. It's really hard to really pinpoint, the snap share of both these guys, especially, if the Raiders are trailing and then they have to pass more, so that's part of it. Really interesting. We're getting this news live on the show. Love that.
I do find it interesting though that like not that Zamir White was a good pass catcher in college because he wasn't. He didn't catch any passes. Like looking at his 3-year stats, he had 17 receptions total over 3 years. But like
It's not what Georgia did on
no,
offense.
it's not what
Throw
no,
to their
it's
running
not.
backs. They did not do that.
Right. But like it is interesting because we always looked at Josh Jacobs like please catch more passes.
Yeah.
And then year 3, 4, you're like, whoa, like 50 plus receptions, well on his way to 50 plus receptions again this year. I don't like they just use one back. That's why I'm like, I know that Abdullah is going to get work, and if Zamir White's not efficient, like they'll mix in. But what if Zamir White is efficient? We might not see Amir Abdullah very much tonight because the Raiders' propensity to just, and maybe that's they've been fortunate enough to have Josh Jacobs for the last few years, but I don't know. I like the Zamir White just all around. And maybe this is because one of my best ball teams that advanced has Zamir White finally unlocked in week 15. Let's go, Servo. But this is interesting. Both running backs set at 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5 receptions when Josh Jacobs has 54 targets on the year is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was just looking at Jacobs. When he's got 54 targets, 37 catches in 13 games. I think if we kind of put in, when you look at his receiving over the last few games, 16, 15, 12, 11 over the past 4 games. He's been over, he's had 12 plus receiving yards in all but 2 games this year. I think if you kind of pencil in, I don't know who's it going to be, White or Abdullah. I feel like Abdullah is the better pass catching back. So I see his 11.5 receiving yards prop on BetMGM. I would take the over on that. It's only minus 120 to the over. But to your point too, I think both these guys should be involved in the passing down work. As you were saying, I would stay away from the rushing yards for White. I know 61.5 is the line. It's kind of in that middle territory where he doesn't have the track record. I wish I could just go in and say he's gonna plug right in and take on all these carries, but I don't know that. And if I have the option to stay away, not bet it, so I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I agree with I'm staying away from the yardage as well.
Yeah. Um, Michael Murphy here. Eckler 50+ receiving yards. Thoughts?
Under. He's only done this once. Maybe that in large part has to do with Keenan Allen, and we've obviously grown accustomed to Austin Eckler being like that dude out of the backfield. But like, there's just been something off with Austin Eckler this year. Everything. I mean, the targets are down. We're coming off a year where he had 127 targets in 10 games. He's had just 54. Um, uh, maybe the Keenan Allen factor is something that I should be baking in a little bit more, but he's only done it once this year.
Yeah.
New quarterback under center.
So
Something
50 plus over on BetMGM is plus 275
yeah.
For Austin Eckler. But I do think there's a reason the actual line is at 30.5. I think there's a reason it's that low, right?
Yes.
I could see him catching a bunch of passes. Like his receptions prop is at 4.5. And it's only plus 100 to the over. Like I'd be more interested in betting his receptions because I do think there could be a lot of checkdowns, but I don't think the yardage is going to be a lot there.
34.5 receiving yards per game this year for Eckler. And again, like it's a big deal that Keenan Allen is not there. It's also a big deal that Justin Herbert isn't there as well. Like,
yeah. I do think the Raiders defensively will probably have it in their mind that, all right, Eckler out of the backfield. We got to cover this guy. We can't let him beat us. Maybe rushing wise because the Raiders' rush defense isn't as sharp, but I think passing wise, I feel like he can catch a lot of passes, but maybe the yards aren't totally there. And that's why I gave out the Gerald Everett prop because I feel like him in the shorter range is could take on more of those Allen receiving yards and catches more so than Eckler, in my opinion. So, interesting. All right, let's go back to college football here because we got bowl games and I got thoughts on them. If y'all are interested, back to that Myrtle Beach Bowl. Okay, Georgia Southern here. Give me Georgia Southern to win here. So Ohio, I was saying earlier, you look at these records, and if you're a casual college football fan, you see, a 500 Georgia Southern team going against the 9-3 Ohio team. But there's a reason this line has flipped to Georgia Southern. It started out, Ohio was favored in this bowl, but it's flipped because Ohio has seen a lot of their top offensive guys hit the transfer portal, including starting quarterback Curtis Rourke, who's probably going to get some power conference interest from teams out there in the portal. But also their top two running backs, Say Bangura and O'Shawn Allison, are both in the portal. One of their top receivers is in the transfer portal. Like this Ohio offense could very much struggle, in my opinion, to really, compete like we saw all year. This is not the same 9-3 team. So give me Georgia Southern here. I look at Georgia Southern, by the way, in the transfer portal. They're basically going to be at full strength. They've only seen one guy hit the portal, and it was like a backup corner. But besides that, they hit a lot of guys that could have gone elsewhere, could have, seen some interest from other teams, but they chose to stay heading into next year under head coach Clay Helton, who this is like the motivational factor for Georgia Southern. So last year, they also went 500 in the season, Georgia Southern, lost in their bowl game, though. And it was Clay Helton's first season as the head coach there. I think he's going to have his team motivated to come out this week, get the win now, finish above 500, kind of like, revenge narrative from last year of like losing in the bowl, having a sour taste, finishing below 500. But I feel like there's a kind of added little extra incentive to go out and get the win here, end the season on the high note. 3.5 is the spread. You could take that and for them to cover, I would look to just buy a little and get the -3 just to have the little safety of winning by a field goal. So yeah, give me Georgia Southern in this Myrtle Beach Bowl. You could take a little run there on Saturday morning, James.
Well, we don't do much running here, Servo. I don't know who he thinks running anywhere. I mean, we'll take the car. Let's head to the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl. Miami, Ohio. I mean, great commercial. Miami of Ohio and Appalachian State. What do we got for this one?
So this is an under for me. I'm not picking a side. I could see Miami of Ohio, covering as underdogs here, keeping it close. But I'm just taking the under for a few reasons. First is that this game, the Cure Bowl, it's in Orlando, Florida. There's 90% chance of rain and 20-mile-per-hour winds expected with a storm there in Orlando, which immediately just has me looking at the under with just some nasty weather game. But then you look at Miami, they're down their top two quarterbacks now. They had the Brett Gabbert, their starter, was hurt earlier in the year. Their backup, Avion Smith, has transferred away. Miami's going to go with a very run-heavy offensive game plan, in my opinion, now, with now that down to the third-string quarterback. But Miami's also a very good defensive team this season in the MAC, and I feel like they're going to have to lean on that and their special teams, which was pretty good this year, to try to pull this one out, because on the other side, App State has been very inconsistent offensively this whole season. So I really question how many points we're getting in this game. It's kind of an ugly, you don't really take an under in a bowl game, but I'm going there. I think everything's just kind of pointing to that.
I love that, and we do have a pretty good comment here from Swamp
Oh,
Donkey
yeah.
over on Twitch. I love college football. The only place that can make a big deal about two shitty teams playing for Avocados. That's amazing.
Listen, they're
True.
not shitty. I gotta say that, because Miami did just win the
Sure.
MAC championship. So this is, they're not. It is the whole thing with the bowl games, though, is how many transfer portal guys we get, how many opt outs
Right.
with people going to the NFL. Like, that is what is really just kind of hurts some of these bowl games.
Right.
But yeah, honestly, this might be one of the last years we get all like a full bowl schedule, because next
Right.
year we're going to the 12-team playoff, and then coming up after that, there's talk of like an expanded playoffs too. These like lower tier bowls might be going away at some point soon, because it's just, yeah, you get two, I won't call them shitty, but they're bad. They're not like, this isn't Oregon in the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl here. All right, next one here. New Mexico State in the New Mexico Bowl
What if
taking
they go
on
undefeated? What if they go undefeated? They're not going to. Are they just required to play in the New Mexico Bowl? Like,
what, New
is that a
Mexico State?
yeah, is that a requirement? Like, what if they went undefeated and didn't lose, and they were like, nah, you can't go to the college football playoff because you have to play in the New Mexico Bowl.
If they're undefeated, that'd be a very good conversation to have to see what they would do in this situation. But yeah, it's huge that New Mexico State is playing in New Mexico for the New Mexico
Right.
Bowl, and honestly, that is you can look at. I have some X's and O's to break down, but from pure vibes point, this is New Mexico State all the way for me.
Right.
By the way, the screen has under 48.5. I'm not going there. I think that's a different game, but I am going with New Mexico State in this game for sure. So we just were saying it is basically a home game for New Mexico.
Right.
Their campus is 3 hours away from Albuquerque, where this game is being played. It's in New Mexico's home stadium, where New Mexico State actually played there against New Mexico earlier this season and won. So that whole familiarity with that stadium and the area, they're basically going to have their fans dominating this stadium. It's going to be like a home game, honestly. Like, I'm not just saying that because it's New Mexico in New Mexico State in the New Mexico Bowl. This is like legit, because last year, if you look, they played in the Quick Lane Bowl up in Detroit and actually won that game, New Mexico State. But they didn't have a lot of fans in that one because of some travel stuff going up to the stadium. But this is like, they're actually going to pack the stadium with their own fans. So like that from the vibes point for New Mexico State. On Fresno State side, though, so I really question their motivation to be in this bowl, because this is a team that honestly, they start out the season 8-1 and had real shot at competing and possibly winning the Mountain West Conference, but they lost 3 straight to end the regular season and missed out on that opportunity. And they go from possibly playing in the Mountain West Championship and being in a lot better bowl than this, to going to this, New Mexico Bowl and like a low tier bowl game on the first day of the bowl schedule. So that whole vibe of it. And then Fresno State's head coach, Jeff Tedford, is sitting out here. He's not going to be on the sidelines due to health concerns. So they're going to have an interim coach in there. So that's just kind of an added, wrinkle to what Fresno State's, incentive or prep is going to be for this game. But overall, X's and O's wise, New Mexico State's rushing offense is going to be the difference maker in this spot here, because Fresno State is below average against the run. I think they were 98th in rushing yards allowed this season in college. And New Mexico State is like a top 20 rushing attack. They have a really good dual threat, Diego Pavia, who's going to be healthy for this after he got knocked out of the Conference USA title game. So it's New Mexico State all the way for me. This is head coach Jerry Kill has this team trending in a really good direction. 2 straight years now. Again, as I mentioned, they won their bowl last year. They're coming in here a 10-win season and just played in their Conference USA title game in their first season in the new conference. I think they're going to look to make a statement here and get another big win heading into next year. So, yeah, -3.5 is the spread. Again, if you want to get 3, that's fine, but I do think they should win this game and cover.
Let's head out to your final pick of the day, to the LA Bowl, which I heard you give a little shout out to Gronk.
Yeah,
Hosted by Gronk. Okay,
he's like
that's interesting.
he's like the MC or the sponsor for this.
Okay,
Apparently, there's going to be a lot of entertainment involved with this
okay,
bowl game. It's in the Rams Stadium, SoFi Stadium, and Gronk is apparently there's going to be some like dancing and singing, and
got
I
it.
don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that the entertainment by Gronk might be more entertaining than this game. And I'm taking the under in this one, Boise State and UCLA. So on the UCLA side of things, I really worry about their motivation to play in this game. I know it's in LA. It's a great, it's basically playing at home, obviously, but this team is looking to next year. They've had their D coordinator and quarterback coach now leave in these past few weeks since the end of the season. They're at different teams now. D coordinator went to USC too. He left UCLA to get USC. UCLA is also down multiple players in the transfer portal, and including freshman quarterback Dante Moore. So they're down to Ethan Garbers, who was banged up at the end of the season, but apparently he's going to play here. But either way, Chip Kelly's he doesn't have a great record in bowl games when for going back to when he was at Oregon, and also last year they lost to Pitt in their lower tier bowl game. I think it was the Sun Bowl maybe. But either way, he doesn't have a great track record in bowl games because he's a guy he's already hitting the transfer portal. He's already building and looking to next season, honestly. And I just really question how much prep is going into this, especially as I mentioned, they're a couple of their coaches and players entering the portal already. Like it's a weird spot. But UCLA, so their offense is a lot of question marks. But their defense has been really good this year. Even though they're down their D coordinator, their defense I still think is going to come out and be strong here. UCLA games this year, 10-2 to the under. So betting on the under in UCLA games has been very profitable this year. And I think it's going to come to fruition here because Boise State is down its top 2 quarterbacks for this.
Brutal.
Again, the transfer portal coming to bite Boise here. Their starter, Talon Green, is already transferred to Arkansas, and he's out. Their backup is out with an injury. So now they have to start a freshman quarterback for Boise. And I just think that I know they do still have a stud running back in Ashton Genty, who did commit to returning next year for Boise, which is huge because he could go to any power conference team that would have him. But he's returning. But UCLA is just going to stack the box against him and I think really limit him, force Boise to beat them through the air, which, again, the freshman quarterback, very limited experience for him this season. And I think it's going to be an issue. So, yeah, give me the under in this game. It's not going to be great, but, the 4 spread, UCLA favored by 4 here. Just kind of stay away from that. But, yeah, give me the under here.
It's a home game for UCLA here or what?
You could say that, but
yeah. Okay. I wish it was being played in Boise, but all good. We won't see the blue turf in this one. No worries.
No blue,
all good.
No blue turf for this one. All
This
right, so those are some bets for Saturday's games. Before we get out of here, I know you got some quick NBA bets you want to give out to people. So, what do you got quickly here?
Yeah, I just took some games instead of some player props. I like the Warriors to bounce back tonight. Warriors plus 5.5 on the road. A lot of turmoil obviously going on in Golden State right now. They're there's people punching other people, and I mean it's kind of been messy from the start for Golden State.
James, that wasn't a punch. He was just trying to get away. He was just trying to wriggle away, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Actually, it looks like BetMGM took this game down. No, there it is, 5.5. Um, so the Warriors, notoriously good home team. Last year, it was baked in. They could win only at home. They could not win on the road until that series in the playoffs against the Kings. And then it came back to bite them next series against the Lakers. But I this year's different. They're the best team against the spread on the road this year. Now it's like small sample, 11 games, but they're 8-3 away from home, 1-9, 1-9-1 at home, and we saw just kind of like a spark when Golden State elected to bench Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney in the second half of last game and go Brandon Podziemski, their first round rookie, and Jonathan Kuminga, ex Lotto pick. As Jonathan Kuminga, pretty good collegiate player, and there was a spark, and they almost came back and won that game. And I like this team on the road against the Clippers tonight. The Clippers could be without Paul George. Paul George left the other night. He did participate in shoot around, so that's worth mentioning. But groins are a very fickle injury. The Clippers have not exactly been that good at home. 5-5 against the spread this year. They haven't been just kind of good in general. They're still trying to find their footing. This is their third game in 4 nights. I know it's home, but I like Golden State to cover on the road. Minus 110 on BetMGM. I also like the Thunder. I bet the Thunder a lot. I tout the Thunder a lot in any capacity I can. They're plus odds, they're dogs on the road. And I get it because the Kings are a good team. They were the 2 seed in the Western Conference last year. Did they lose in the first round of the playoffs? Yes, but that Warriors series was awesome, 7 games, whatnot. But another team in the Thunder that is super good on the road. They're 7-3. They're 14-7 overall. They're the 2 seed right now, 2 seed in the West behind the Timberwolves, who another we'll get to in a second. But against the spread on the road, the Thunder 7-2-1. Another team that's just being disrespected here. And the Kings, although they've been okay, they're just 4-5 against the spread at home. So the Thunder to cover. Honestly, I'd bet the Thunder outright as well. I think they're just the better team, and we've seen what an MVP caliber player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can do for that team. And I just mentioned the Timberwolves tonight, Servo. I'm just going to take the Timberwolves money line on the road tonight. There's actually movement going towards the Timberwolves. And I think originally this line, which is still, if you want to bet the spread, it's still plus 1.5 in favor for the Timberwolves, was placed because we don't know the status of Anthony Edwards. But he practiced in full yesterday, and all signs are pointing to Anthony Edwards playing today. They're the best team in basketball, 17-4, and they're dogs to the Mavericks without Kyrie Irving in Dallas. And Dallas has been bad against the spread at home, so that's why I'm picking the Thunder outright on the money line. But I'd also bet it's 1.5 in favor of the Timberwolves, or in favor of the Mavs. I'd bet plus 1.5 on the Timberwolves against a team 4-6 ATS at home, a team that Dallas has been better on the road the entire season, and without Kyrie Irving. And let's not forget, Dallas, who has been really good offensively, now clashes with the number 1 defense in basketball in Minnesota, and it's by a wide margin. Minnesota's been the number 1 defense in the NBA. Rudy Gobert's going to cruise his way to a defensive player of the year as long as he stays healthy. And Dallas just got so much production the last few games from people that you don't expect. Grant Williams hit 6 threes last night or 2 games ago against the Lakers. Dante Exum, who was, a lottery pick 7 years ago or 2014, 9 years ago, had
That guy's
26.
exploded.
Yeah, 26 points. Like that's those are who Dallas is relying upon right now, with the likes of Kyrie Irving being out, with the likes of Derrick Jones Jr. being listed questionable, with Seth Curry being ruled out, Josh Green being ruled out. Like that is a very unlikely repeatable offense against the number 1 defense in the league. So I'm betting Timberwolves outright on the money line here, -105 on BetMGM. It's actually moving since I posted that. It's now -110 on BetMGM because I think, there is going to be more bets on the Timberwolves than there are, as we approach Rostock, especially when we likely find out Anthony Edwards is going to play. So give me 3 dogs tonight, Servo. Warriors, Thunder, and Timberwolves. 3 road dogs tonight. I like them all. And I like being 3-0 better at the end of the night.
I noticed, 3 road dogs. Love it. I mean, listen, if there's value to be had out there, you got to go grab it. So I'm all for it. All right, that's about it for us. We got to wrap up here because you are coming up next on our NBA DFS live show with John and Pemba and James Grande here, 5 p.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm, 7 p.m. Eastern on Fantasy Alarm YouTube. We got the Thursday game day preview with Pemba and Cooper. And then 7 p.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network is the high stakes fantasy football show with Eric Balkman. And then tonight, the Bettor Cast for Thursday night football. You could check that out on the Bettor Cast app for Chargers Raiders. So enjoy all the bets and the games tonight and college football on Saturday. We'll be back tomorrow with Howard Bender giving out our best bets for the weekend's NFL game. So stay tuned for that. James, been awesome, and we'll see you guys all later.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor